Radio Free Santa Clarita presents The Talk of Santa Clarita, a podcast about issues involving Santa Clarita and the surrounding valley. With your host, Stephen Daniels. Episode 152. Candidate for the College of the Canyons Board of Trustees, Sebastian Cazares. And now, let's see what the Talk of Santa Clarita is.
And remember, this is for posterity, so be honest.
Sebastian Cazares. Did I say your last name correctly?
Almost.
Almost.
But it's okay.
How do you say it exactly?
We say Cazares. But it's kind of...
It's not, I have trouble with the word Carlos.
You're not the first one in Santa Clarita, and you won't be the last.
Yeah.
It's already sometimes a trouble running for office even more now, like having to spell out it.
Say it again.
It's Cazares. So have you ever heard of the tequila cazadores?
No.
All right, never mind.
Tequila's poison to me.
Yeah, I was about to say, maybe I should have mentioned tequila as my first thing on this podcast.
Right. Yeah, okay. Well.
But usually people might know the drink, and they'll think
Sure.
that cazar means to hunt. So it's
hunt.
like descendant of a hunter. So
Okay.
this Cazares, yeah.
You have kind of an interesting background. I mean, as far as like your heritage and stuff like that. You were saying when we were talking before that you're Latino, but also
Latino.
What else?
All the way, man.
What
so
else?
I am fully of Latin heritage, and I identify. I call myself a Chicano, and a Boricua is like the Puerto Rican side.
Yeah.
But my mom's family, interestingly enough, they're this super small population of Puerto Ricans that immigrated to Hawaii in 1901.
Okay.
You can actually find it on Wikipedia, and it's like this immigration story. So instead of going to New York or something, they went to Hawaii when the island was
better choice, by the way.
Probably, yeah. But the island went through a destruction from a hurricane, similar to Hurricane Maria. So when that happened, it was kind of like an odd kind of parallel to what my family experienced. But Hawaii plantation labor was recruiting labor and workers, and so.
So your mom was a plantation worker?
No, my great grandparents were.
Oh, okay.
And some of my grandparents were surrounded in that life. But what got them out of it was, of course, the military. So that was kind of like the thing that allowed them to have that mobility. And so my entire family became veterans besides my mom. So all that side is like military or civil service in some capacity. But my mom...
Do they still refer to the restroom as a latrine?
Wait, what was that?
The restroom, do they call it a latrine still?
Oh,
Yeah.
No, it's not. I don't think it's to that level.
Yeah,
But, it's not like I go in and it's like, boot camp, But yeah, that's some of my background, and my dad's families, they're from the Morcachella Valley area. My grandparents immigrated through the Bracero program from Mexico, so I have, a variety of cultures.
You're a mixed bag.
A mixed bag, but I'm very proud of where I came from.
Yeah, I mean, do you consider yourself mostly Latino? I mean, do you?
I'm fully.
You identify as Latino.
People used to make fun, would say oh, you're Hawaiian, and they make fun of it, and they'd be like, why does he keep saying he's not Hawaiian in elementary school, even though he comes to school every day with giant Hawaiian shirts and overtly Hawaiian clothes? But it's actually disrespectful to say you're Hawaiian, because that's an indigenous group of people.
I didn't know that.
That's a native. It's like a tribe in a way, you know? And so the Hawaiian, if you say you're Hawaiian, it means you have indigenous Hawaiian roots. And so we're also close to some native Hawaiians there too. And so that had an influence on me. And also it's you got to respect their ways,
Yeah,
I'm not
sure.
going to claim I'm Hawaiian when I'm not, but I'm fully Latino, or Latinx is kind of a new term being used.
Latinx?
It's like gender inclusive. It's something that's being used more with the younger generation. Even the older generation of Latinos don't
old,
like
man,
it.
That's a new term.
It's new. Yeah, I'm glad I could educate you on it. But yeah, so.
So and then, how did your family end up in Santa Clarita? You grew up here, right? I mean, you actually grew up in Santa Clarita.
So
how did your family end up here?
So essentially, there was a recession in Hawaii. My father was a Cali native. But he moved to Hawaii later with my mom, like after college, and my brother was raised there. And then there was a recession, and it was tough times, and they came to California, and they came to a few spots, and then they wanted, when I was expected, they wanted to have somewhere to settle down with like good education and stuff like that. So they moved to Santa Clarita, and so I am, a lifelong resident.
Why Santa Clarita? Why not Long Beach? Why not? I mean,
I think a lot of it had to do with the education.
Yeah, man, that is. I don't think I've ever gotten another answer other than education.
Exactly.
Except property value. One person said property value.
Yeah. I mean, that could have been a factor too, right?
Yeah.
It was probably at the time. I know it was way more affordable.
Yeah.
They moved here like back in 2000, so the community is a much different place. But I have seen. I would go to Hawaii very often to a point where I associate it with a lot of my childhood and being raised there too, in a sense. But this is still my hometown, and I have seen it fundamentally transform.
How so?
It's in some ways it's almost hard to describe or comprehend, like especially when you're young and you just all the transformations. But just like buildings or developments or diversity or population or even just like you just notice things like community values and cultural shifts. It's in a way it's very. The community reminds me very like in a way like a microcosm of the country in some aspects. Not in every aspect, but I feel like just as America has fundamentally changed, I feel like Santa Clarita has, in some aspects, it's unrecognizable to what it was when I was like a little kid. Yeah,
well, let me ask you a question. As a Latino, Latinx, did I say it right?
You don't got to say that for me, but I try to encourage the term because the LGBTQ plus community in the Latino community. But you can call me Latino or Chicano or whatever.
I'd rather just call you Fred.
I like that. That was interesting.
Fred. So Fred. No, I mean, as being Latino, I mean, this is a predominantly white area in general and stuff like that. I mean, did you ever experience racism of any type growing up out here? I mean, did some people look at you as, I mean, in particular, your heritage is even different from typical Latino that...
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, did you experience anything like that, or...
Honestly, so I try to make it clear, like, I've had my privileges. Yeah. And in ways I still have privilege, I'm still... It depends on... It's like I am a different thing to different people, right? But there is this saying, it's like, niri aquí, niri allí. It's like, not from here, like, not from there. So it's almost like when you're a product of, being raised in America, but you still have those ties to an immigrant family, and there's like, you're either, there's some people that I talk to and they're like, oh, you're not Latin enough. But then there's other people I talk to that are like, you're the most overtly Mexican person I've ever known, or you're like way too Mexican. It's just like, you can't satisfy everybody. But to be honest, I've never experienced, I've had some encounters before. I don't think I've had the same level of intensity as others, but I have seen a lot of intolerance and bigotry and cultural pushback when I would be proud of my heritage. And I've seen, because I was from that community and I was close with other communities of color, I saw a lot of things in this community that I think other people don't realize was there for many years.
Yeah. Well,
to the point where I thought it was actually very like unacceptable.
The reason I ask is just because I talked to Kelvin Driscoll, who's a city council candidate, and he talked about racism, experiencing it in this area in general. And most people don't. Our mutual friend Mai talked about, who is Vietnamese, talks about, has told me about some of the bigotry that she experiences. And I asked literally as a dumb white guy. I mean, as Latino, because I've never really experienced, personally anybody, bigots that are against Latinos, except for the immigration issue with, but
it's there, man.
It's there. But I was wondering if you've experienced it or anything in this town. So.
Yeah, in a way, I think that's honestly I was also raised with certain values and had certain parenting and things like that. But I think that was also another reason why I was pushed to become such a passionate activist at such a young age.
Yeah, I want to
because
talk about
I saw wrong, and I saw people in my own community I felt like excluded, or I saw acts of racism like before my eyes at a very young age. And then I just felt like I was one of the few people that could just, I don't know, articulate it or speak up for others that didn't have the platform that I had. And so
now, are your parents or anyone else in your family as active in
like politics,
the issues and
or
politics and the
activism?
issues and stuff like that?
So I mean, now with ever since 2016, I think kind of ramped up a whole wave of just engagement and civic engagement. So like they obviously they watch the news and they talk about it all the time, and my mom actually really likes to have takes on stuff like that and do little like posts and things
but they don't I mean, you've gone out and protested for Black Lives Matter.
They were not to the level of in the movement as much as I was, as much as I am.
Do they look at you, I mean, like when I talk to my parents about calling my representative, it's like, why don't you call your representative if you're mad about this? And they're like, what? Why would I do that? Like, they work for you, you're supposed to call them, but they think I'm crazy for wanting to participate in government, Do they look at you and go, Sebastian, why are you doing this?
Okay.
Do they go, why are you getting into this mess?
I do think that there's sometimes I don't want to like get too personal, but I do think sometimes there can be like a kind of feeling like you don't owe anybody anything, like you are sacrificing so much, putting in so much, and it's just like, dude, like almost everyone else your age just like trying to get a degree and just like work, and I'm doing those things too, but there is a lot of support too, though, and they also recognize what's at stake, and they recognize my experience and others' experience, and I think they recognize that I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think that I had an avenue and a platform and a set of skills to make a difference in my community. And so I think they actually are very proud. But I think a part of them is a little bit like, you got to make sure you're human and young too, and you don't burn out and explode. And I'm learning that myself as it goes along. So you do
the typical thing. How old are you now?
I just turned 20.
Yeah, and so you did what any 20-year-old did. You chose to run for the board of the local college.
Yeah, you calling me a freak? I'm just kidding.
So I mean, as far as is this the first time you've run for something, or I mean?
Well, I mean, I've run for leadership positions for clubs and things like that, and I won pretty much all of them.
That's right, and I forgot. It just like you were the student body president for college.
That too, but before that, I was a student leader at Saugus High School.
Okay.
A community service leader, president of the Rotary Club and other extracurricular programs, and I was involved in other things, and I would run, and those were my first races. And then I did run for student body president, and according to many faculty, including, now it's hard to do this like data-wise, it's not like LA County, public election info. I can't compare it to past things. But there are many faculty that said, I've taught here for like decades, or I've taught here for over 10 years, and it's like I've never seen a campaign as energetic and as supported as yours for student body president.
What motivated you to run for student body president? What was it about that? I mean,
a lot of factors.
Such as?
On one end, I knew I had I always wanted to be an advocate, and I always could be an advocate in certain circles, but I knew it's like I wanted to be in a position that I could best serve people.
Right.
The other thing was community college became incredibly just a passion of mine, and it changed my life so fundamentally, and I started looking into those issues, and so I started becoming a big community college advocate, seeing that stuff, and also I was exposed to a variety of problems as someone who was personally deeply involved in the college. So I would see student issues up close and personal, or I would see faculty issues up close and personal, and I felt like, what, I care about this college, and I am interested in the future of it, and I have heard, there's ways that we can be a little bit better too, but we're still a great institution. I'm like, I want to run for it. And I also I love the idea of service, of just like public service.
Yeah.
I find it it's just, at least so far right now, it's just this thing I love to do. I like being able to serve people and make a difference and be a voice for people, and for people to come to me like, please voice this concern. I just love that.
What were some of the concerns that you got involved with as student president?
Some of the things on my platform, and it's interesting that some of it ended up connecting to the platform on my board of trustees race. And I do think that's interesting because I think a lot of that's connected because I kind of understood the system, and I felt like the best way to fully execute that platform was as a board member.
Okay, well tell me about what you wanted to do as a student board.
So I kind of set up a variety of things, and I try to do things that the student body cared about and pass initiatives, but things like we want to continue efforts to be a sustainable campus and push for things like that.
Yeah.
And there's still ways that we have made with our power plants and fuel cells and things. There's good progress there, but there's still other things. Like we don't have a carbon emission date, like say community colleges in LA do, or maybe there might be maybe some students want more recycling bins in certain areas, things like that. I was a big advocate about basic needs reform, which a lot of people have no idea about.
Such as?
Basic needs is kind of that term. And I think it's kind of done we want to destigmatize it, but things like student hunger, student homelessness, just support for those kinds of essential things that students need. That is, I think, an epidemic impacting community college students.
I think those are great causes, but I do have to ask you, how do you get involved with what is student homelessness for a community college that doesn't have dorms? No,
I get that. Well, I think that's a good point too, because in my opinion, Santa Clarita isn't really built for young people to.
You don't think so?
I don't think so at all.
What does it need?
Well, okay, that's the one thing is now I think I'm going too off topic, because then I can talk so much about Santa Clarita.
Well, just give me, like an example. What do you think the youth need out here? I've always been curious about that.
Oh, obviously, there's obviously great schools and there's great parts of this community and parks and beautiful things and programs, but I don't really find there to, there's so many students that, can't find affordable housing. There's so many students that, have trouble just getting out of that environment. There's so many students that and just young people that, don't feel like there's much culture for them or engagement or avenues to, be advocates, or there's no youth council like Simi Valley. There's all kinds of, I could go on and on and on, but I think some of that connects to my race for a general youth support of my candidacy. Yeah. But I don't want to get too far off topic, because I could talk a lot about Santa Clarita.
Well, you oversaw. I'm intrigued already, just because you talked about what student government and everything, and what you were doing with it. Because to me, my interpretation of what student government was let's get a vending machine over by West Hall. It was that small of an issue kind of thing. And you're talking about making carbon emissions and stuff like that.
Yeah. So. We talked about destigmatizing mental health too, and campus safety. There was actually a school shooting scare back in March 2019, and the student body was completely underprepared. It was terrifying, and there was no plan, and everybody was all over the place. And so those were the things how can we need to address those things. And the other thing was I wanted to make government accessible. Yeah. And make people care about government and be a advocate on all levels of government and things like that too. And those are some of my things. And also just the general, I ran on other things like general student representation, but not everything is those big, bold equity ideas. Yeah. But I think a lot of students do care about talking about important, big issues like that. but there's other things that I presided over that were small time stuff too.
You oversaw, what, $1 million budget?
Nearly, yeah.
That is, to me, that would be intimidating. You're looking at that much money and I'm in charge of this?
Well, of course, everything I do is possible because of others. Everything is a team effort, and all of my accomplishments are not going to be able to be done without, the team that backed me and advisors and things like that. But yeah, the budget, we oversaw a lot of important fiscal matters. And not only did we budget things, and I made it a goal in my budget to expand programs for college assistants, expand programs at the Basic Needs Center, fully fund those kinds of things that we consistently do, like free printing for students and stuff like that, and campus engagement. But we use funding to try to promote equity on the Canyon Country campus. There's a lot of heat there. There's not as much hydro stations to refuel your water, even though it's a much hotter campus, things like that.
Could the student government president get me a Starbucks close to my desk, particularly right now, which would actually be in my house? But this
depends how today goes.
Yeah, okay.
Depends on the questions you ask me. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm curious though how this led to running for the board itself. Again, 20 years old, I think you're the youngest person to ever run for the board, correct?
Yeah, and I believe, from my knowledge, I would be the youngest community college trustee in the state.
And you're going to UCLA in the fall.
I am.
Are you currently enrolled or next year?
Fall, but it actually doesn't start till October 1st.
So let me
I have a long summer to campaign.
Before we get to your campaign and how you
talk about
ended up
UCLA,
running, no, I'm just. Most people your age would say, okay, I'm done with College of the Canyons. I'm moving on to UCLA. Maybe I'll get involved with student government there.
I get you.
This is my new school. Why are you staying involved with CoC?
There's a variety of aspects. One, CoC is something that I'm deeply passionate about, deeply care about, deeply fell in love with. And if I critique it, it's a critique out of love, right?
Yeah.
Because I want it to be even better. But I think it's a tremendous institution. It fundamentally transformed my life, and it was the kind of environment that I needed for a long time in Santa Clarita.
Okay.
And I felt like I was a product of all of our public schools from the whole pathway, and I'm grateful in multiple aspects, but I saw a different side of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And CoC just meant a lot to me, and so I became incredibly passionate about it. The other thing is, I was someone who was involved in academic competitions for years. Like
right.
I did speech and debate and all those things like that at Saugus High. And you know, at first it was frustrating, but I ended up going out with a bang. I ended up doing quite well in a lot of those programs, and, you know, prestigious awards and stuff and Model UN. But I did it for so long in so many of those traditional college programs that I got a little turned off by the culture, and I felt like everything was just awards and resume building, and I just felt like I always wanted to be in a position where I could make a difference, I could advocate for people, and I'm like, there's an opening right here. I'm the most qualified person for the seat. It's in my area.
Why are you the most qualified? That's it. That's
absolutely.
it. Well, tell me about that. I mean, most people would say you're too young.
Oh, I think that my youth, on one end, I acknowledge my youth, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
I'm willing to grow and willing
and
to listen.
I'm not saying that you're too young.
That's totally cool.
No, I'm just
I'm sure
saying
there are people listening that will think that.
Well, I mean, there is a legitimate the stereotype that
that
the board member is, you know, old.
Well,
you know.
Well, I do think that a youth is an advantage because I've seen a different side of this city. I've seen. I don't just look at this is what the Hart School, the Hart High School, or the William S. Hart District was like. Yeah. I read this news, or this is what CoC was because I read this thing in the paper. It's like I lived and breathed it, you know. And I work in education too. I'm an educational instructor for students at CoC.
Okay.
So I not only am someone who was a product of public schools, and the only candidate in this race that was a product of public schools in our area all the way. I'm not only the only graduate of College of the Canyons, but I wasn't just a student, but I was someone...
You would be the only graduate of College of the Canyons on the board, is that correct?
From my knowledge,
I
think so, but a part of me might think that statement's inaccurate. I feel like there's one or two board members that have gone there.
Okay.
But I definitely know that even if they have gone there, they probably haven't gotten the degree for like 40 years or so.
Yeah.
And the college...
See, they are old.
Well, trying to be as respectful as possible.
Okay.
The state of college education, of community college, of higher ed, of Santa Clarita, of everything is so fundamentally transformed. Our needs are so different now. Our viewpoints are so different now. So I've lived and breathed that fresh experience, not just as a student, but experiencing the college on all aspects, from even the early childhood development program, because I went there for preschool, to the dual enrollment program while I was at Saugus High School, to the first year promise program, to being in the honors program and experiencing the transfer program and getting into Cal and UCLA because of those, to also being deeply involved in clubs and extracurricular leadership, and to being someone that actually works in education. And on top of all those things, I was resoundingly elected as the student government president, serving on the most important committees at the college, like the Central Planning Committee, or the PAC-B Budget Committee, or the Advocacy Committee, or like I was serving on these, the some of the most essential things to the college operating. And so I'm the only candidate in the race that has that direct experience at the college, and that's why I'm the only candidate in the race with the most support from the College of the Canyons community.
Tell me about the decision to run. How did that come about?
Yeah, it was a lot of factors. To be honest, a part of me kind of like, there was always a little like thing in my head, even when I was first starting ASG, because I was someone, you know, really active and paid attention to local government. I was paying attention to the Board of Trustees, and even when I first started serving in ASG, I did see that I was in Area 3. But I didn't want it to be like, okay, I want to use my position to be like opportunistic. I was there to be the best ASG president possible. But there was always a little thing in my head like, man, what if I ran for office? Like, I always kind of thought it. Or like, would it take to run for this board? But a part of me is like, we'll get there when we get there. I don't know about that.
Right.
But there were many people that I think talked to me prior to being ASG president that kind of felt that I had what it took to run for some local seat, or they liked the idea of me running for office, and people supported my work. And so the idea was always there of just like, maybe I were to do this. But I always thought like, I'm only gonna do this if I think I'm qualified for the position, and I'm knowledgeable, and I truly know that I would be the best choice for the voters. But I ended up being deeply involved as ASG president. I received a lot of accolades and praise from all aspects of the college. And I enjoyed what I was doing, but I found many of the Board of Trustees, while I respect them and they've done great work, I found in some aspects to be disappointing in their leadership.
How so?
Moments where pressing matters would be discussed, and like literally no questions being asked, not much participation or voicing concerns. And they're also, of course, like I want to be fair too, because they've done excellent things, because the college is a great place. But I felt like in this time and in the things that were happening and the questions that I would ask, I felt like there wasn't enough strength on it. And I felt like, I want to go for it. And I felt like I saw so many problems at the college that were just like human issues to me, like really pressing, that were of really importance, that I felt like weren't being addressed enough. But at the same time, Steve Zimmer isn't running again, so I'm not running against anybody right now. I'm just running on an open seat, and I think in this race, I'm the best person for the job.
Well, let's talk about the school itself and what you want to do. You said you see a lot of issues. Now, I'm a student at CoC, and even though I'm not on campus right now,
I get you.
I mean, my experiences though at the school itself have been extraordinary.
I get you. Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every classroom has a smart board. Every teacher has what they need. They supply students with stuff that the students can't afford. Like, for example, software.
Yeah,
they're supplying us with laptops to use and stuff, and we're always using the latest version of the software and things like that. What's wrong? Yeah,
I get you. I totally get that.
I mean, my perspective of it as a student is I've been very impressed with the school.
Yeah.
So what do you see as
I totally get that.
Needs to be done?
And I'm someone who as well has seen the wonderful aspects. And so anytime I mention an issue, it's because I think the college can be even better, and I want to present it as an opportunity to grow, and an opportunity for the college to maximize its potential.
Right.
But I do think that there are issues that you don't see until like you're on the inside, and I think that there's ways. When I was starting to get involved in statewide community college advocacy, and those students also encouraged the idea of me running for the board, because there was a student trustee on the board, and there's always been a want across the state from advocates statewide to all levels to have community college representation on the board of trustees itself. But they also I also learned about other community college programs. I learned about other things that were offered, and I saw certain things at the college, and I felt like, there's ways that we could prioritize, students first in various aspects. And so, on various things, there's, of course, the campus is very diverse in the student population. So, not every student is going to experience the same thing.
Sure.
And that's kind of an important thing to address, that it's like everybody's experience might be different. But there's still and I've seen this personally because I've been so deeply involved in college, there's still so many students that get lost at the college. That takes them, they want to transfer, and then they're there for like 5 years. Obviously the rates and transfer rates have increased, and we're doing a good job, but there's still that problem. There's still so many issues that occur, whether it's mental health wise or things like that, or there's issues that occur where there's a huge stigma around community college students and even CoC. When the kind of feeling that I was taught before I went to CoC was, it was almost like a disappointment to go there. That's the kind of culture that was created for me by, the college recruitment culture that's been going on.
How was it a disappointment for you? I mean, what were you disappointed in?
Well, I never was, because CoC was allowed me to flourish, but there's a lot of people, for some reason, that there's a stigmatization of community college students, like around our age, and then there's the kind of culture, at least in the local high schools that I experienced, that it's like, oh, if you go to CoC, it's like, oh, CoC. And there's this huge stigma, and there's these huge barriers to campus life and engagement. And I thought that the college, in many ways, there could have been more engagement for students, or there could have been more programs to create campus culture. There's a lot of students that think the campus culture is dead. There's a lot of students that have had difficulties starting clubs with the interclub council, or doing things like that. Like, so obviously, there's great instruction and things like that, and to many students, like, the classes are cool, and so that's awesome. But there's also other sides to that not everybody realizes, because our instruction is made possible because of faculty and teachers, and they're not supported. And the majority of our college's instructors, the vast majority, are part-time faculty who are paid some of the worst in the region for our community colleges. Nearly 20% of them on food stamps and public benefits.
That's unbelievable.
A huge chunk aren't even making living wages and don't even feel valued or respected by the college. So all that's occurring with a variety of just everyday student issues, like COVID-19 disruptions, or why isn't my Canvas module, the online platform for classes, fully implemented to the courses? So like, there's everyday things that are minute, like, I think there could be ways that the college can have more feedback for students, or could be more transparent if a student wants to create a program or have campus engagement. But there's also those kind of big issues, those systemic issues I think happening at the college, that not everybody realizes that is actually impacting your instruction, and that the college can be even better if we shifted our focus upon that.
There is we talked about the fact that a lot of the board is old, elderly.
God bless them.
God bless them. You guys have done a good job. But I mean, I guess one of the big things is Diane Van Hook, who's been there for 20-something years, 27 years, maybe even more. I'm not sure on how long she's been there. And granted, she has done some amazing things for the school.
Absolutely.
But on the other end of it, there are those that would say there's time for new blood. That maybe the time she's run her course as far as what are your thoughts on Diane Van Hook?
So, as always, Diane Van Hook has done incredible stuff for the college. Sure. She was, I consider someone a good friend, and I believed I had a good relationship with her. But I also was not afraid to disagree with her on the public dais too, and that sometimes would irk some people if I would ask those questions, So in my view, Diane Van Hook has done wonderful things, and she still does great things. But there's moments where I think that I won't be shy to disagree with her, and I'll always hold her accountable, because that's my job as a board of trustee and public representative. In terms of stepping down, her contract isn't up yet, so that's a process that has to happen. But I do think that we should, obviously a succession plan should be considered, and even if she isn't stepping down soon, I think that process should still be talked about by the board of trustees, because it's a reality. She's not going to be there forever, and she's been in the position for so long. No one knows the college as much as her, and so I'm afraid, the next person to fill those shoes, it's going to be a high task. So I definitely think there should be a succession plan. But again, done great things, but I also will not be afraid to disagree with her. And I was not afraid to voice concerns to administration and the higher ups as ASG president, and I will continue that. And I will ask those thoughtful questions and advocate for the programs I think are essential for students.
Okay. The Lee Barnathan, when the Gazette was still around, was writing a couple of articles about CoC.
Yeah. I used to read them.
I had him on the show. We talked about
read almost everyone.
And Adele Alonso, who's on the CoC board currently and up for re-election.
Yeah.
I talked to her a little bit about it. Do you think? One of the things he talked about was the kind of the culture of the employees and the way they're treated. Is there something? Is that something that you'd like to address?
Absolutely.
In the future. Or is that? Are they victims of just leadership? You know, I mean.
Well, in my opinion, I think no matter what the issue is there, and that a board of trustee has a responsibility to advocate for that population.
Okay.
And they are part of some of my platform that I'm running on that I could expand a little more if you ever want to talk about that, because there's more to it.
No, I don't want to talk about
You're like, I don't care what you're running on. I just want to hear about your...
No, seriously.
I get you. Sorry, I'm getting off topic.
That's all right.
But I think most definitely that is a huge problem there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you are a product of CoC and you are a close advocate to teachers and faculties and employees, like you see it firsthand.
Yeah.
And like I would ask those questions, and in confidence, I don't want to say names, but there are people that come up to me and they feel like the college can be better in treating me right. Or sometimes I feel like fear if I want to ask important questions or stand up. Or I feel that I've had teachers straight up tell me this. It's like, I feel like I am not respected, I am exploited at this college. I've had them fully disclose that to
Whose
me.
fault is that? I mean, as far as the school goes, I mean, is that leadership, or is that just the single boss that they're experiencing? Or
I mean, there's obviously broad systemic issues that come into play.
Because Lee found more than one complaint about this kind of stuff.
It's
it was interesting to me that it seemed to be a pattern that was developing around the school, around a lot of the employees. That like when one came forth saying I was mistreated, suddenly there were others. You know.
So here's one thing.
Yeah.
I would try my best to ask questions, and in some aspects I was, administration, I had a great relationship with them, and in some aspects, other people at the college would provide great answers to me. So when I talk about these things, I'm not trying to like bag everybody and just put them all down, right?
Yeah.
But on other ways, I think there's aspects where you like try to ask those questions and transparent questions, and you're just not going to get an answer at the college. And so in my view, a board of trustee has a responsibility to do that. And so no matter whose fault it was, I can't really say. I do know that the board of trustees and a school board member on the college should be asking those questions and should be standing for the fair treatment of workers at the college and respecting them, and not only on a pay level, but respecting them in campus climate-wise. There's a reason why so many staff and so many teachers feel like the college doesn't address their concerns. So it's like creating a climate. So not only valuing them, in the budget or things like that, but creating a climate where they feel welcomed. And what was interesting was for students deeply involved in the college, I interacted with students that felt like they had the same struggle sometimes trying to get answers about certain things. And so I think that it's just important to be an open climate, a transparent climate, and also make the board of trustees a body that feels open to the public and the college and for everyone to participate. I mean, there's so many aspects that we could delve into on how, I found that body alone, I felt like, could have been better on allowing people to voice their concerns.
Well, let's talk about your platform briefly, and then we're going to have a little fun. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
So it got really serious, and so
no. It's good. It's good. Yeah. As a candidate, I think people expect you to be kind of serious about stuff. Tell me, if you're elected, what's the first thing you want to do, and then tell me a little bit more about your platform in general.
All right. So the first, I think, the main things is one, I feel like we need to just have, evaluations, procedures, review policies, things like that, to make sure that workers and teachers and faculty are treated with the utmost respect, and actually start procedures and whatever it may be, like, okay, let's do a tangible action to make these go along the way. Two, I want to make sure that the board of trustees is as transparent as possible, because in my opinion it still isn't. And if you go on a Zoom meeting, it's like it's hard to give public comment, and so I want to make reforms directly on just that kind of basic level, like how can we make sure that this is as open to the public, and we created a new climate, and where the board of trustees is not a verbal fistfight all the time and agitation, but a team that works together for the future college. And three, day one, I'm just going to advocate for the programs that I think are essential at the college that I entail in my program, and immediately be a voice for those necessary things that I, during these tumultuous times, should be like protected at all costs.
Okay. All right, let's have a little fun. The first thing is I have a question from my kid.
Cool.
And
I love that.
His question is,
Hey Sebastian, my dad says you're basically a kid. Why are you running for office and not going out and playing?
Work hard, play hard, right?
Work hard, play hard. Yeah.
No, I'm just.
Well, I think he has a certain kind of legitimate question. We kind of touched on it, but don't you have a desire to be more of a 20-year-old kid than a 20-year-old than a board of trustees? On
one aspect, I don't want people to think like it's kind of interesting because I think when you're young, you have to find that balance where it's either it's like, okay, this guy's either totally fit for the job and like he's got what it takes, or like some people might think like, this guy is way too passionate for his age. Like something's probably off with him, or he does not have a life. But I have my fun. Like I still live a young life. I still go to concerts. I like to dance. I hang out with friends and enjoy myself. Go to music festivals and I'm trying to get into surfing in the next few years. Like I still.
You
enjoy
look like
myself.
A surfer, Sebastian.
Yeah, I get that all the time. Yeah, dude. Yeah. But I also just it's my passion to surf, and I'm fit for the job. I'm running for the job. I'm seriously running for it, and I'm like, it works out time wise. I've looked at the schedule. I've talked to people.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Do you have the time if you're attending UCLA?
Yes.
What are you studying at UCLA?
American politics, political science concentration in American politics, and a minor in Chicano studies.
Do what?
Why am I studying that?
Yeah, what is your ultimate goal?
I'm leaving it open just because the discourse in the future of America is really insane. So I really don't know what avenue I will fully be in, but I know that I always want to be on a level or on a position to advocate for people to make changes in the political system, and not just that, just social changes, advocate for others. I would like to go into law, hopefully civil rights, or immigration. But my main thing is definitely politics in some aspect, whether it's being a public servant or even if it's being an advocate, being involved in organizations that advocate for things and legislation, whatever it may be. But I've had a passion since I was 15 to fight for a better country and to fight for a better community and fight for representation. I just love that stuff. But we'll see where it takes me. Maybe I'll become a host of a podcast one day. Who knows?
This doesn't require much, man.
That's kind of fun.
My wife has a question as well, and she just wants to know what's up with the hair. That's all she said. What's up with the hair?
Is that it's like as if the hair is bad, or
no? I just think she's impressed with it.
Avant-garde, right? Okay, on one aspect, there's probably something to do with my brother.
Yeah.
Because my brother is like my best friend, my rock. Yeah. And he's got way longer hair than me. Yeah. So I'm sure psychologically there's something there. Two, a lot of people told me to all right, you should let it grow, see what happens. I saw it happen, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be cocky, but I'm like, wow, my hair looks great. So it was a new look, right? So I love the look, and so I just like it, and I also think maybe it's a little bit of a statement too, Yeah. There's kind of some cultural island stuff it connects to, There's activists, back in the days, the old, social movements of our times that had long hair and stuff like that. And not just that, I also just feel
what you're saying is you like looking like a hippie.
I guess. But I also feel like it's I like looking like myself.
Yeah.
I'm not, there has been this preconceived notion of a politician has to be this age or talk this way or have, be super, super clean cut. And I'm obviously going to be professional and take my job seriously, but it's the hair has kind of become a part of me. I kind of have a connection to it for a variety of reasons, whether cultural or social or just friends, or just because I like my hair. And I'm not going to cut it,
I was just wondering what shampoo you use.
Honestly, what's interesting too is that a lot of it's very natural. Some days I can just let it go and it's just naturally wavy. It's kind of crazy. But I still have to maintain it, I put a little dry shampoo or
that is more than I ever thought we would talk about your hair.
Maybe I tied a little bit. I probably went too in depth about it.
No,
but people are curious. People like hair,
Yeah. Well, my wife does. What's the first concert you went to?
Damn, Dang it, I keep forgetting this because I was lucky enough to be raised in a very concert family. Mm-hmm. So.
Do you miss concerts right now?
Oh,
I miss them horribly.
I'm dying, dude.
Yeah.
This is awful. It's probably the number one thing that is killing me the most. Like besides, social interaction with friends. That obviously sucks, but like just live music is I'm trying to think the first one. I can't really. I feel like it was like. I think my mom tells a story like I saw Ricky Martin when I was in her room. Her womb, though. I think she says that, but I'm kind of blanking out. But I've been taken to a variety of concerts, and I'm lucky to have.
What's your best concert? The best concert you ever saw?
Ooh, there's been a lot of great ones. It depends on the genre because I'm involved in a lot of stuff. The best hip hop concert I saw, I think was Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh yeah, it has to be.
I saw them live on the 25th anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Rock concerts, I've seen a lot of great ones. Like Heart was amazing.
Heart was?
Yeah, the Zeppelin like Bonham experience was great. Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of hard to just fully. I've gone to so many concerts. It's kind of hard to like pinpoint who is exactly the best, and some of them might be artists you might not know too, because I listen to some of the music. But I'm also an old soul. I listen to a lot of old school music too.
Yeah. Don't put me on a spot with
maybe some underground things though. Like do you know who Frank Ocean is?
Yes.
Do you really?
I've got a CD. Yeah.
Really? That's great. Yeah. Honestly, because most people I know don't know Frank Ocean.
Yeah, I know who Frank Ocean is.
Okay, cool.
Put me on a spot.
I've seen him live.
Okay.
Last time he was supposed to be live in Coachella this year, and everybody was hyped because this was like the first time they were going to see him. But I was able to see him in his last show, 2017. On his first tour back to LA in like years, I saw Frank Ocean live. Nice. I felt like I was seeing Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, an amazing singer.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'll throw it. Have you heard of Beach Bunny?
Beach Bunny? Yes. You mean Bad Bunny?
No, Beach Bunny.
Oh, I actually have not heard of Beach Bunny.
Okay, see, I got you on that one.
Interesting. Are they like
Soccer
reggae?
Soccer Mommy? No. This is indie rock.
No, that's the one. That's one of the genres like indie rock. Yeah. I got a lot of work to do on. Yeah. Like some metal, I have a lot of work to do on. Country music, I don't know as much. I know a few old school, but if it's like the reggae, hip hop, R&B, Latin kind of scene, dance, I'm
well, you know what? We'll compare notes later at some point. We'll talk, and I'm sure you know some more stuff about certain genres than I do, and vice versa. So
for sure.
But country music in general, the old school stuff, that's all that really matters. I mean, you get past Loretta Lynn and Johnny Cash, and all there is Merle Haggard, and Dwight Yoakam. So, favorite movie?
Ooh. That's an interesting question too, because it kind of depends on the type of movie too, like with the music. But if it's like I'm talking about like a classic film, I love, Lawrence of Arabia.
You're such a politician, man. Just pick.
I literally can't though. I just like so many things. I love Kubrick. Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Love that book. But if it's like, I'm also a diehard comic book fan, right? So it's just like so many of those movies, like I love.
Who's the worst superhero? Not the best. Who's the worst?
Like in the comics or in the movies?
In the comics.
Oh, the worst superhero.
In the movies too. Let's do both.
I mean, Batman's a fascist.
You think so?
I think he's a fascist. But he's like one of my favorite characters of all time. But morally, you think about it, you're like, all right, this billionaire kid became so demented that he just beats the crap out of poor people, and he dresses up as a bat and like flies around. There's no trial or,
I think there's
attorney rights for these people.
There's a bumper sticker there. Batman is a fascist.
There was some commentator, I forgot what it was. I can't think of it, but like he talks about Batman. He's like screw Batman. Batman is like a fascist dream, and like, he just says hilarious stuff. Like in like the reality of society, who do you think all those people are? Like he's probably just beating up minorities, and like it's funny. There's some commentary and fan work out there.
I mean, when you break it down, you could really say that. I mean, probably the reality is he would probably, if there was really a Batman, he probably would be beating up minorities.
Yeah, there's not going to be the Joker and stuff around.
Yeah. Well, if there's a Batman around, I'm sure we'd find a Joker somehow.
Yeah, there's a lot of clowns in this country.
You and I compared notes. We both love Superman, but the thing I've always been intrigued with about Batman is that he has no superpowers, but he's always the badass. There's stories where he's like the guy that can that can control the Justice League, that can kick Superman's butt in different ways, and so that's always intrigued me about him. He's always smarter than everybody else. You know what I mean? So
he's well-rounded.
Marvel or DC?
DC. Marvel fan, but DC has just been such a huge figure in my life. I was a big comic fan in middle school. It shaped me. It's probably the reason why I'm like a politician, honestly. It was probably some childhood thing where I wanted to be like a superhero.
Who was right?
Not saying I'm a hero.
Captain America: Civil War. Tony Stark or Chris or Steve Rogers? Captain America.
Oh, Steve Rogers. I think.
Steve Rogers was. All right.
I think so.
And let's.
I get Tony's point though.
You get Tony's point. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the great things about that movie is that you can kind of understand both sides quite a bit.
We actually did a CoC committee based on that. For
really?
UN.
Yeah.
And I wrote this huge background guide about it, and I connected it to like real world political issues, and we talked about like cybersecurity and the surveillance state in America, and like due process and like all this stuff and like terror, and it's great, man. It's a great concept.
Give me your elevator pitch. 60 seconds or less why someone should vote for you.
Oh, okay. That was a big turn from DC. I thought you were going to ask a Batman question.
That was intentional too, so I had to throw you.
All right. I am someone who has been a lifelong resident of the area I'm running in, a lifelong Saugus resident, Santa Clarita resident. I understand that I'm young, but I believe that gives me a fresh perspective on the issues, and I'm the closest to the student body than anybody that's ever ran for the position. We're talking about, various platforms like fighting for pathways and programs and equity reforms to make sure everybody has opportunity, and we're fighting for transparent government and making the college as best as possible. And it's incredibly important to care about community colleges right now because they're essential to our economic recovery, to our society right now, and they're just an essential part of our community. And on top of that, I'm the one who has the most direct experience at College of the Canyons leadership, and my leadership had a reputation for a reason, and that's why I'm the only candidate in the race endorsed by CoC professors, CoC faculty, CoC staff, the CoC student community, and it's why I'm the teachers, students, and staff's choice, and why I believe I have the biggest support of the CoC community of anybody in the race, and I think that proves why I'm the best man the best individual for the job to continue our excellence and also address points where we can do better.
Excellent. Give me your best evil villain laugh.
Best evil villain laugh. Okay, so you can. There's multiple evil villains. I keep trying to play both sides.
I'm
saying you can be like the mysterious, like the like one, or you can be like the Joker, like the like that.
Yeah. I always thought Frank Gorshin. You ever see the original Batman series with Adam West?
Yes.
Frank Gorshin plays a better Joker as the Riddler than Cesar Romero because
I like Cesar Romero. But
I do
I'm biased.
too. But yeah, well, but I mean the laugh is more natural. He's designed. I mean, he's a real thin, bony guy, just like the Joker's drawn and stuff like that. I always thought he would be a better Joker than who they cast as the Joker.
Yeah.
And let's get a joke from you. Give me a joke.
Okay. Are we already done?
We're pretty much done.
I want to talk more about my platform. It's okay.
That's all right.
See on my website.
Yeah. Well, what is your website? Plug your website.
www.cazares for CoC.com, and you can see other things that weren't talked about in the podcast, whether it's pathways.
Well, I can't have you all day, man.
Okay, I'm sorry, man. I know I think it's because it's starting to get hot right now. We're getting sweaty.
It is starting to get hot. And
but check out my platform, and if anybody wants to message me, feel free, and I can expand upon it. Anyways,
the joke.
What do you call hiking U.S. college students?
Hiking U.S. college students.
Yeah, college students that are like hiking.
I have no idea what.
The Walking Dead.
Okay. Not bad. Did you write that yourself?
No, I didn't. I had to find it. I've talked to you earlier before. It's like I'm not good at just like kind of jokes.
Yeah.
I got to be in an improv setting. Also, I'm inappropriate. My jokes are inappropriate, so Talk of Santa Clarita is probably not my best stand-up opportunity.
Well, Sebastian, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. I love being here.
It was definitely a lot of fun. I wish you much luck in the election.
I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it.
I think you, because of your age and your experience, you definitely stand out as a candidate. Which district are you running for?
Area 3.
Area 3.
And so it's very interesting in the way the districts were mapped.
How so?
I mean, I just feel like it was mapped in a very odd way, not to the areas, but it incorporates parts right next to Saugus High School.
Yeah.
I live like right by the high school. It's like right in that area. Then parts to like Valencia, going to Glen Park, and then it actually hits some chunks of Newhall right around here.
Oh, really?
So it's like a sliver like this. It's
So
shaped. It's kind of shaped like one of those gerrymandered congressional districts in like somewhere like other state in the country. But
I have no idea what district I'm in, so I have to look it up.
You can look it up on LAvote.net.
And
my website has a map too, if you want to see a map.
I'll check it out. But I wish you much luck in the election. Thanks for coming by.
You got it.
It was a lot of fun, and we hope you guys enjoyed the talk.
You've been listening to the Talk of Santa Clarita. Listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud.com, YouTube, and Stitcher. Barring a life event getting in the way, a new podcast is available every Tuesday. Questions, comments, and show ideas can be sent to thetalkofsantaclarita@gmail.com. You can also call or text us at 661-505-8672. That's 661-505-8672. Follow us on Twitter at The Talk of SC or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Talk of Santa Clarita. You can also visit our website by going to www.thetalkofsantaclarita.com. This has been a production of Radio Free Santa Clarita Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To donate, go to radiofreesantaclarita.org/donate. Radio Free Santa Clarita, on the net and on the air, and we're very much aware.
Any questions?